How crazy is it that I was telling someone about this dream that I had of a flood hitting Texas yesterday? I was literally just telling somebody this dream yesterday. And then I wake up this morning and there's flooding in Texas. Look, I think it's near the San Antonio area. The dream that I had, the flood, there was a tsunami that hit the coast of Texas, like the Gulf Coast, and then went on up through Dallas, or went up through like Houston, Austin, which is close to San Antonio, and then Dallas, and was heading towards Dallas. And I remember I was going to go back down to Austin from like Dallas, and I saw the flood coming. I was like, oh no, I gotta run, I gotta go to Dallas. And then, I was running, and there was a mom and her child trapped. It was like a Latina mom and her child, and they were trapped. And I was like, oh no, I gotta save them. And so there was a tower, and I said, you guys have to go up to the top of the tower. And I was realizing like not everybody is great at climbing like me. Now, I'm not even that great at climbing, but in the dream, I was great at climbing. And I was like, I got to get them up there. And then, I don't know, somehow they ended up there. I think it was like God. And then there was like all these vines and leaves that started to grow on the building, and the flood was passing. And I don't know, it was really weird. But probably not weird. I mean, it's definitely like spiritual, metaphorical, and all that, but I don't know the interpretation necessarily exactly. So, what ended up happening, I believe I saved the mom and the child or whatever, and I don't know what happened after that, but I just think it's interesting that this flooding is happening now in Texas. So here's the post that I made in May 15, 2023 on Facebook. I had a second dream of the same thing, but in Texas. It was a sunny day, and I believe I was at a large get-together in Dallas. The thing is with Dallas is everyone's a Christian until they actually have to be one. They were all smiling and having a good time. I said I should explore a little by being a little more interactive. Perhaps I can make an introduction by serving them. I had left the lower ground and went up to the mountain to fetch something for the people. As I was coming down to give it to whoever, I said, what if y'all have me come up this mountain for a reason? First off, I thought it to be weird. There were all these mountains in this area, Texas, because I thought it was flatland mostly. This, however, I need to edit this. This area, however, looked more how I would expect Arizona to look. I started thinking of a flood hitting Texas and said, I don't think it ever will come this far north. Right after I said that, I looked up and there was a tsunami that had hit, and it surely made its way to the flatland where I was. I said, yeah, you definitely had me come up this mountain for a reason. I looked to see how fast it was coming. I said, I better run, so I ran up the mountain and found a super tall building on a ledge. I said this might be high enough. It was covered in bright green ivy leaves and was gold on the inside. That's when I realized this was the same dream, but not. There was a woman there who was from a previous dream, as well as a boy with mental disorder. For whatever reason, see, I didn't even remember that part about him having the mental disorder, but it says, for whatever reason, I knew that I was supposed to do, which was to climb on to the top of the building to search it out and then bring them up there too. I had looked out the window and it was almost dark, and a flood was slowly coming up the hill. People that were higher up in the mountain, it seemed like they were having a get together, were freaking out a little as they saw the flood coming. But that time the sky was gray, a little light poking through the night was falling. I saw there's nothing to climb with, but I started to ask, and I think that means ask Yah. And next thing I know, I'm almost at the top climbing on the walls. These people were eating and being merry until the day the flood came. I knew by looking at that wave that was coming up the mountain, there was absolutely no way that they survived. So I think that I was in Austin. I don't know. I feel like I was in Austin at some point and then wanted to go back down to Austin. Austin's kind of a hilly area, so I don't know why I said that. But, and then I also remember I wanted to help. Maybe I was working for a lady, it was like a white lady, and she had a lot of money. And so she was like pleased with my work as well. But anyway, it says, Yah had put it in my heart to serve, which led me from the lower land where people got wiped out and going up, which made me aware of the highlands and the mountains. Yeshua came to serve, not to be served. That's part of what saves us. Yah led me away from the flood. It was not my doing. There was no amount of knowledge of wisdom of man that could have done that. It was the word that delivered me. Praise Yah. Even people that are higher on the mountain will not see this coming, and they will not be prepared. But it seems as though Yah was going to get them to a safe place. Praise Yah. I asked for a dream, and Yah gave this to me. Ask, and ye shall receive. The mountains represent the high places of Yah. Moses went up on the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. Yeshua went up on the mountain to pray. This is where we retreat to the Father. Hence Matthew 24 says, when you see the abomination of desolation come, flee to the mountains. Oh, I'm near enough to the mountains. I'm in Tennessee. And the Father had given me a vision, a dream of places of refuge in the last days. Now, I was in Ohio about 4 years ago, and I was at my mom's house. I had just got back from Missouri, where there's a lot of like Christians and Torah keepers and that kind of thing. Well, my mom and I got into it because her and my aunt were gossiping about me, and you know, this is something they've been doing since I was a child, and I decided to say something at that point because now I'm with God, and what you're doing is wrong, and you need to apologize or be dealt with by God himself. So we got into it. But you know, the interesting thing is she said, I'm going to the Smoky Mountains. And I said, whatever, Mom. Like, you don't even leave to go down the street to Walmart. Like, I'm in one ear and out the other type deal. And so I felt like the Father was telling me to leave. But I was like, but I just got here and I haven't seen my mom in like forever. But the Father was still unctioning me to leave. And then we got into that fight. And then I was like, I'm going back to Missouri. But then the Father was like, no, I want you to go where she said she was going. So I ended up driving to Tennessee. I went to the Smoky Mountains, stayed in like East Tennessee for a while, went down to like Sevierville and, you know, these places in the mountains, and then ended up leaving and going to Chattanooga. Oh, actually, I think I went to Knoxville and then like Chattanooga. And people in Knoxville are so racist, by the way. Chattanooga is kind of racist. Like, you can tell people look at you like you're less, but, you know, it's not like Knoxville, well, where they'll, like, lock their doors around you and that kind of thing. And, you know, it's now I'm realizing it's not just because you're black. It's because they're demonic and they have demons in them and they don't like the seed of Israel. And so, you know, like Satan does, he wanted to raise his throne above God, and therefore that's the same thing that they do. They think it's like a physical thing when it's really just pride, essentially. And so they subconsciously try to raise themselves above you. So anyway, long story short. So, and then I came here, and then I left and went to Texas, went to Florida, Texas, made a round back to Missouri. This was like around the end of like COVID and that. I don't know. So I've made a few rounds to like Texas and Missouri and Tennessee. So I'm here now in Tennessee, where it's going to be a place of refuge, especially along the Appalachians all the way up to West Virginia. So, and then, you know, the first time I came around here, the Father was showing me zombies. And it's funny because one of the bus drivers was talking about zombies a couple weeks ago. And I said, yeah, I saw one when I was in San Antonio. And, I mean, this was legit. The face looked like it and everything. And so I know that they already exist. But this is going to be what I believe is a whole zombie apocalypse. Because I remember being on a mountain somewhere, and it was wintertime. There was snow outside. I had a rifle in my hand. I don't even know how to shoot a gun. I'm wearing this black coat, so you know I'm in some kind of darkness. And then there was like something coming up the hill. I said to myself, I don't know whether those are people or if they're zombies. And so I look out this like thing on the rifle. I want you guys to think I'm making an Illuminati sign. I look out this thing on the rifle, and these people are coming up, and I realized it was like some kind of, I don't know if it was a military guy And then there were these zombies behind them, and then the dream ended. And then the next day, I ended up going to this farmer's market, and there was a military guy there. And I told him about the dream, and he kind of like stepped back into the tent. Like he knew what I was talking about. These military people know what's about to happen. They're part of it. These masons over here, these witches and warlocks, they know what's about to happen because they're part of it. So, my thing is God gonna deal with them, and then it's a wrap for them. It's a wrap. Like you gonna hide in the caves. You're gonna hide in the mountains, and nothing is going to be able to save you. Nothing's going to save you because you decided to do wickedly. You wanted to worship Satan, your God, instead of, stick to the truth. So, oh well. Guys, it's time to stay in the Father's face. Don't. I said that because there was a Mason dude. He was like standing right there. He was trying to eavesdrop on my conversation. They always do, because they want to know what you know and all this kind of stuff, and they try to put hits out on you and all sorts of stuff. But I think it's kind of sad concerning them too, because it's like I don't even think they know like what's really going on at the top. They just like they're like, whatever my master tells me to do. Well, you're not going to want to listen to your master anymore. I think y'all should really repent and turn to the Most High. Because even God doesn't wish for the wicked to perish. And y'all are going to if you don't repent.